Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette. On this episode, we get to meet Emile Mosseri. Emile is best known as a film composer, but his life in music started with a band called The Dig, and now he's just recently put out his first solo studio album called Heaven Hunters. In this chat, Emile and I talk quite a bit about this record, what led him to it, some of the themes behind it, as well as how his film composition work sort of overlaps with his personal songwriting and how the former kind of led to the latter, making him comfortable enough to release this very personal music. We do touch on his film work, including the path that led him into film composition in the first place, and how it sort of surpassed his wildest dreams, including the nuts ride of award season. We talk about some specific film scores of his, like The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Kajillionaire, and his Oscar-nominated work on Minari, and how he composes alongside such specific filmmakers, auteurs, and these storytellers with such particular vocabularies. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone that Meet Our Makers is now on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/meetourmakers, you can, for a very small monthly fee, become a patron, help me out, help me keep making the show that I love to do and that I hope you love listening to, as well as eventually growing some nice kickbacks, some nice little perks for you guys. You can also follow the show on Instagram at Meet Our Makers Podcast and on Twitter at @meetourmakers_. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this chat. This is me meeting Emile Mosseri. I'm good. You're catching me literally 30 seconds after coming in from teaching all day. So.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say after waking up. I was like, that's
No.
30 seconds. Take
yeah,
long.
Yeah, I just, put everything on like this really quick. No, I'm a high school English teacher, so I
Very cool.
just got home. So thank you, Emile, for agreeing to hang out for a little bit and chat.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. We should say off the top, I guess the main occasion for us to be here today is that you have a record coming out June 9th on your own imprint, Greedy Heart, right?
Yeah, good record.
Right, so June 9th. It is, you've been working as a composer for several years now, which we'll get into later. You've also had a band for a while, but this is your first solo album. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. This is
So then I'm curious then what led to the conception of this record and kind of what along the way compelled you to decide that it was time to do an album like this versus another composition piece or an experimental piece or a band piece?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Like I've been playing in bands and writing songs and singing my whole life, and it's only the last 4 or 5 years that I started to score films, and that kind of took over. But I've always wanted to make my own record. I feel like, and just scoring other people's films kind of got me there faster in a way, because I was working for writers and directors that were telling really personal stories, or kind of making really vulnerable films, ripping their hearts out and putting them on the screen in a way that was inspiring to me. And I kind of I learned a lot from working with a few of these people, and then I wanted it kind of gave me the bug. I caught the bug a little bit for it and wanted to do my version of that, and I'd been, in a band for most of my life with 2 guys I grew up with that are amazing songwriters, but we had 3 songwriters in the band. They're all making brilliant records on their own now. And, I'd always kind of either been collaborating with them or collaborating with a director or collaborating with another artist on a collaborative album or track. But this is the first time that I've done something that was just me, which is exhilarating but terrifying at the same time. It's because there's nobody to point to. If it's there's nobody, you're just kind of naked, but
Yeah.
which is thrilling, but new for me.
And are you alone on this record?
In a way, not at all. No, I mean, there's a
Okay.
lot of amazing people playing on it. Namely Bobby Kurlick, my friend, produced it. He's brilliant artist. He goes by the Hacks and Cloak for his
Oh, okay.
solo
Yep.
prison. He scores films as well for Ari Aster and a few other people, and does amazing work in that space. And he's brilliant. So I basically, I mean, I'd recorded the whole record myself, and I got to a place where I couldn't hear it anymore. I couldn't see it any, it was too close to it,
Hmm.
that I was a little bit lost, and I needed somebody whose work I loved to kind of put their ear on it, and kind of make me fall in love with the songs all over again, because I was like kind of turning on it, or just, there's a part in the process. Somebody said this to me recently that I forget who it was, but there's like a horseshoe kind of shape with it. Like you start out, you're really in the artistic, like the whole process, the arc of it. Like you start like really psyched on something, and you're lit up, and
Hmm.
you're inspired, and then you kind of sink down like and then ideally you come back up like a horseshoe. I feel like I found Bobby when I was like kind of, and that's more in the sunken part of that shape. And then
Mm.
he loved the songs, and his sort of critique on like sonically where the album was at that stage really resonated with me. He was saying like, I think the songs are like, he was saying that the moments that were vulnerable needed to be more vulnerable, and the
Mm.
moments that were expansive and lush and cinematic and needed to be more expansive and bigger and wider. So he sort of just sonically and spiritually expanded the record and made it much more dynamic and made it much more colorful. And he took a lot of liberties that I like wouldn't trust. Like there needs to be sort of a trust where you love someone's work, they can play something for you, and it can sound wrong at first, but you can, because you trust them, you can sit with it for a few days. And then there was a few things like that where a couple things he played for me at first, I like fucking hated them. And then like 24 to 48 hours later, it was like my favorite thing on the record.
Hmm.
I think that only works if you really like you give yourself surrender to it. And he's such a brilliant artist that was it was that part was easy,
Yeah,
to
and
get.
it's interesting when people like him, because I mean, I forgot his true name, but I know that the Hacks and Cloak, and it's interesting when he does produce for other people, because I wouldn't say your music sounds anything like what he does, but
Yeah.
he came in and put his perspective on it, and that sort of unlocked something for you, it seems like.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah, and what he does, I mean, he's what he does is pretty vast. Like as a composer,
Hmm.
like the music he wrote for Midsommar in particular, like that score is like so romantic and melodic and cathartic and beautiful. And then he has other stuff that's more, the Hacks and Cloak stuff is beautiful in this darker, more cutting way.
Hmm.
Uh, and then he's got all kinds of other scoring projects. And he's produced, there's a song that he produced for an artist, Josiah, goes by Serpent with Feet.
Oh yeah.
There was an EP that Bobby had produced of his. There's a song on there called Four Ethers that like was my favorite, one of my favorite recordings that I've heard in many years. And
Hmm.
and then he did stuff with Bjork and Brother John Misty, sort of. So he's an eclectic, sort of colorful um artist and singular artist. But yeah, it was a little bit of an unexpected pairing in a way that I think he gave some of the recordings more teeth,
Mm.
more. I remember the first thing he played. I remember I was in my mom's house, in Connecticut. I was there. I was in Tel Aviv for a couple weeks, and I'd sent Bobby the stems while I was gone, and then I was in Connecticut, and I got like he sent me the first thing that he did, and I remember like going into my mom's bathroom, like listening to it, and before I pressed play, I was like just giving myself this little pep talk where I was like, "You're gonna hate it, you're gonna hate it, and that's okay. You're gonna learn to find a way to like communicate why you hate it, and like, and because it's so vulnerable. Like somebody's taking your your song, your voice, your words, and anyway, so I pressed play on it, and he like there was a song that he'd taken all the harmony out of the song until the chorus. It's a song called "All for the Bliss." He'd like he like replaced all the chords with just this one note, this one like repeating note. And it was disorienting at first, but within that 3 minutes of listening to the song, I fell in love with it. Like he made it new to, like he his approach was so bold, that and so like new and fresh that like I heard the song New Year's, which was a gift, to have that. And then we were just kind of off
Mm.
at the
It's nice
races.
when things surprise you like that.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice being like, it's also like the other side of what I'd been on. Like like the vibe that I've been living in creatively for a few years leading up to that point was like writing music for other people's stories, writing music for other people's films, and getting notes and like interpreting their scripts or interpreting their like rough cuts of their movies or whatever, and being inspired and but writing stuff but to serve them. So it was really exciting. It is really exciting to like have my record and be able to collaborate, be on the other side of that, like be able to it be my lyrics and my stories and this personal thing, but like also it'd be highly collaborative, both musically with Bobby and visually with other artists that, um, namely my buddy Joe. He's been sort of like the creative, the visual sort of director of sorts for the record.
And I mean, you've been in music for a while. We mentioned your band before. Of course, you said there were multiple songwriters in that band, but would you say that these songs on Heaven Hunters are your most personal, your most sort of naked songs?
I think so, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, there's other songs with my band that with the Dig that were personal, but it was so collaborative that like, lyrically a lot of the songs were collaborative. Also, it's harder to make to have a space for that on a record when when the songs are coming from three people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the work that my two buddies and like brothers that I grew up with making music, the music that they're making now too is also like some of the best music out there, and some of the best music I think they're freer because I'm not like trying to squeeze my songs onto their records. They're freer to make these singular, beautiful records that are like very much, very pure and like, um, focused.
Yeah.
I think the collaborative process is magical, but it can be brutal too when you're like, especially when there's desperation involved, which was definitely the case with our band. Like I listen back to some of the music, and some of it is really strong, and I feel really proud of, and some of it I can tell what I was trying to do. I can tell what we were trying to do, because being an artist, trying to make a living as an artist playing in a band is one of the most challenging, um, things you can do. It's like it's really stacked up against you in a way, like, and with the changes in the industry and with the fact that it's such an in one sense such a joy and such an like enjoyable thing to do that makes it so everybody in the world wants to do that thing. So it's high, it's so competitive, and it can kind of wear on you, and it can find its way into the music. And I feel like what's nice about scoring films is you're kind of free of that. You're like
Mm-hmm.
your job, you're not your sense of like self and your sense of identity isn't wrapped up in film scoring in the same way. So you don't stand in your own way. So in a way, you're kind of freer to write more, to be yourself more. It's weird. It's hard to it sounds strange, but
Mm.
like if since I don't identify as a composer, since I identify as like a singer and a songwriter, like when I was starting to score films, it's like I wasn't standing in my own way because like my idea of like I wasn't overthinking everything and sort of like blocking my own output. It was just kind of free because it was like, oh, this is in service of someone else. So the music just came, you
Yeah.
know? And that's sort of what I wanted to bring to this record was like, after doing that a few times, just bringing that energy to this record, to my own record, where it's just like, this record doesn't like, I don't have to make a living off of this record. Like can make a living working for other people. And so I was freer to just make the record I wanted to make. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting to hear you refer to yourself more as a singer and songwriter than a composer, given that myself included, but many people do know you for composition work. So then to come out with this record that's uh, quite personal, quite nakedly personal at times, um, was it frightening at all? That idea of like putting yourself on the front line. I know the stakes were a little lower because you like you said, you don't have to make a living off this record, but to come out of this sort of like instrumental compositional work, was there a fear there for that?
Oh yeah, it's terrifying. It's
Mm,
terrifying like it's terrifying like releasing it. I
mm-hmm.
think now like I released the first song a couple like on a month or two ago. I think after that point it's not scary anymore. I mean it maybe is a little bit like when the record comes out it'll be a little scary, but like I think that first one also I was like because like people don't know me as a singer, the people that are aware of me don't know me in that context. Like it's important for me to be on like I wanted to put myself in a vulnerable way like on my album cover on in my music videos like I wanted to just sort of not just for the sake of spelling it out for people but also for the sake of just like being like leaning into that, like if the songs are personal and if my voice is exposed, if it's, like I might as well mirror that visually.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole process is terrifying, because there's an impulse to sort of um stay where like I'm sort of swimming against the tide a little bit because it's a safer place for me to just stay where I have agency. Like I have more agency as a composer. I have more like it's not really scary to release a score because you can always say this is what the director wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if somebody loves the music you write for a film, that's great. If somebody doesn't, there's sort of this built-in sort of like safety shield where you're like, well, I would have wrote, I would have written a masterpiece, but the director, like, the director wanted me to do something else. And I think with this is like, it's just more like, I try not to look at it like it's a higher or pure like form of expression because I think I love film music and I think and some of my favorite music is film music and or instrumental music like but at the same time performing, like singing your songs, performing it's its own animal. It's its own thing. There's nothing like it. It's like, and also the experience of it, like playing live, it's like, it's so immediate that like scoring films is collaborative in the beginning when hanging with the directors and getting calibrated and listening to music. And it can be collaborative at the end when you're like recording an orchestra or recording soloists, or and then when the movie comes out and you're sort of talking about your work or premieres or whatever, like that part is social. But so much of it in the middle is like it's like me alone in this room writing music in solitude,
Mm-hmm.
and even the sort of more social aspect, when you release something, you're getting the feedback a lot of the time digitally, unless
Right.
you're like a psycho and you go to the movie theater 30 nights in a row to see the movie that you scored.
Just hang out in the back row.
You hang on the back, yeah, exactly, with a sign, with a tie with piano keys on it. But I think like that part of it is like also like with you're getting a lot of that. I'm speaking personally, like I'm getting a lot of that shit on Instagram or text, people saying, "Oh, I heard this, I love this," or and it is a cold comfort in a way, or maybe not a cold comfort, but it's a digital version of playing a song in a room with people in it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's magical and poignant and potent in its own way. Like the marriage of a piece of music in a film, when it all hits right and everybody, and it's this team sport and everybody like did their part in making something, and you can see all yourself and your friends and all in it. That's a powerful drug too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I spent my life like on tour, like from like playing shows from like 18 to 33. That's what I was doing. I was struggling, but you are alive in a way that's specific to that life. Like the highs are a little bit higher, the lows are really low, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like in a different city every night. I was living in New York. It's a different thing happening to your brain chemistry than being in LA in a house and now I have a kid and married with a child and working. It's just a different thing. So I think with this record, it's like it feels a little bit like getting back into this dipping back into this other life, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's exciting but complicated, because you're like working through, eh, you know, it's a little bit like putting on a wet bathing suit. We're like stepping away from the music industry for 4 or 5 years and then coming back into it. You're like, it's like a familiar feeling, but you've had a little break from it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But it is exciting, and it's a different world now too than when I was in a band. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of shocking how seismically things have shifted so quickly.
it's crazy. Yeah, like it's like I don't. Yeah, like live, like touring is different. Um, Also just be like stepping away from it. Like I don't. If I were to go on like like a lot of the clubs are different, a lot of the labels are different, a lot of the press is different. Like it's a little bit like being frozen or something, like Austin Powers or something, something back, you know. But it's I'm grateful to be in a position where I'm able to like make a record and play shows and um get back into it, because I missed it terribly.
Mm. And make the exact kind of record you want to make too, which is a
Yeah,
luxury.
it is. Yeah, it is. It is really. It
Yeah.
is luxury. Um,
So how then does playing in sort of like an indie rock band give way then to film composition for you? Like what made that switch?
It's interesting. I grew up like really into film music. Like I'm not like a deep scholar of it. There's a lot of people that know a lot more than me about it. But when I was a teenager, I fell in love with like Edward Scissorhands and Danny
Mm-hmm.
Elfman's score, and I fell in love with Nina Rota and like The Godfather when I was a kid. It's kind of like an obvious one, but it's also kind of the best one. It's such an amazing score. And then from that, I got into like Fellini's movies and like all of because through Nina Rota's scores for for Fellini, like sort of got me excited about film music as like a teenager. Then I studied classical composition a little bit in school, and then I left school and just toured in bands and in that band mainly for like a decade and
Mm-hmm.
change. And then during that time, I was like scoring films for mainly for my friend Terrence Nance, who's a musician and an amazing filmmaker and a brilliant musician. I contributed some music to his movie, an oversimplification of her beauty in like 2013, something like that.
Okay.
And then about 5 years ago, I moved to LA, and he had got a show called Random Acts of Flyness, picked up by HBO, and
Oh yeah.
he hired me and a few other amazing composers. This guy Nick Hakim, Nelson Mandela, and his brother Nelson, and John Babb, and Terrence himself. So there was five of us writing music on that show, and that happened to happen right as I got to LA. So
Oh wow.
from there, I got to LA, and then I got that job, and then from there I kind of um expanded on it. I'd met other people through that job. That then my friend Joe hired me to score his film, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and that was sort of when it picked up to this other level of like, where from that point I was just like scoring films. Like I kind of got sucked into that
Mm-hmm.
world, um, which was also at the time really scary and exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like it was probably something you hadn't really expected to ever really happen.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to happen at all, and I remember wanting to to be in a band and do that rather than score films, because as much as I love the idea of scoring films, somebody told me some like number about how competitive it was, like hundreds of people competing to score a film for free for somebody in LA, or somebody told me some story that spooked me.
Mm.
And I was like, well, I might as well do, if they're both so competitive, and I might as well like focus on the band thing. But
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't like I fell into it either. It's sort of like I also really wanted it, like I remember when I met, like I worked hard to for Terrence. Terrence is like really brilliant, and he was the first person I worked with that like taught me like to push myself further and further, like multiple revisions on each piece of music to get it its best possible, get it to its best possible place. And then I met this agent that my agent, who's my agent now, this guy named Bradley Rainey, who's amazing. And he gave me an opportunity to audition for Joe's movie, Last Black Man in San Francisco. He was like, they're having a hard time finding a composer. Like, can you give him a demo in the next 2 days, like over the weekend? So I spent uh like 2 12-hour days in a row, like chipping away, working on something, stressing out. I spent my own money on like hiring clarinetists and buying string samples, and like I like really went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see that it was an opportunity. I love the movie. They sent me a really rough cut of the movie. I fell in love with it, and I was like, I'm gonna die if I don't get this job. So I worked really hard on it, and then I pretended like I wrote it in an hour. Like I wrote it in 24 hours. So to just try to like play it cool and
Sure.
get the job. And then Joe hired me, and yeah, it was like a fucking crazy experience. It was like 4 months of like working 10 to 15-hour days every day. The end of it, there were days we worked like 24 hours in a row,
Mm.
just because the deadlines were crazy. And nobody knew what they were doing. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Like it was Joe's first time directing a movie. Our friends that were acting in the movie, Jimmy and Jonathan and the DP Adam and our friend Christina produced it. Like all of us, it was our first time doing it. So it was a bit of a mess, but in a really sort of magical way.
Mm.
It was
So
like,
what were you gonna say?
uh, go ahead.
I was gonna so that was your first feature film that you scored. Um
Yeah.
your most recent, I believe, is the Jesse Eisenberg film, When You Finish Saving the World.
Mm-hmm.
But in between there, the time I became aware of your work was on Kajillionaire.
Oh, cool.
Um, because I'm a huge Miranda July fan.
Oh, yeah, she's the best.
Um, I'm assuming you were familiar then with her work before.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
remember seeing her movie. I remember seeing her first movie, Me and You and Everyone We Know.
yeah, it's like
Um,
one of my all-time.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
masterpiece. I remember seeing it when I was like 19 or something, and I saw it at this. There was a theater called the Jacob Burns Film Center, which is like in Pleasantville, New York, which is a few towns over from where I grew up. So it was like an art house theater that was like this sanctuary. And like it's where I went to see those Fellini movies and stuff
Mm,
after I got into The Godfather as a kid. So I went to see her movie and was just blown away.
yeah.
And then The Future, and then her short stories. Like there was I hadn't read her when I met her. She gave me some of her books. I met her like as I was recording, like the day before I was recording um my band's last EP.
Mm,
So like I met her, and then I went off for a month to make a record. But while I was making the record, I would like sneak off in the morning and write melodies for her and get sort of immersed in her vibe and reading her short stories. And um I saw an early cut of her film, or it was a locked cut, but it was a different music in it. And we
mm,
only had 5 weeks to score it. So like, because when I came back, we had like to meet like a Cannes deadline for submitting to the film festival. So we like were just the two of us in a room every day for 5 weeks, just like because that's a really short time to
yeah.
score a film. Um, and I was like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers, and I was like, it was Last Black Man hadn't come out yet. I was like very green. That was the only film I'd scored before that, and it just felt very like um surreal to like be working with her and be in a room with her, and it was
Yeah.
magical. It was really a great experience, and it was a singular experience. And then um from there I did Last Black Man, Kajillionaire, and this movie Minari, all like on top of each other, like in a row, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. And I had this sort of false sense of like, oh, every movie's going to be as good as those movies. Like I'll just keep getting movies offers that are as good as that.
Right.
And it took a little bit of time, a few years after that, to realize, oh, that's like because it was a couple years between scoring those and then Jesse's movie where like it, I was aware like, oh, these movies are actually really rare. Movies
Mm,
that are as special as that. And all three of them are really, really imaginative and vulnerable and sort of pure in a way that's, I think I was spoiled in that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I was kind of gonna pull on that a bit because I also started with Miranda's first film. It was one of the movies when I was like 13 or 14 that like got me into film. Because it was so strange and it was such a new voice. And so, her work is so specific in its voice and in its tone, and Jesse's work is too, and Lee Isaac Chung's work is too. And so how do you, as the composer, then, like, what's the tension between you and your musicianship and then their quite specific visions for their films? Like, how do you navigate that as a composer?
I think well, when it works the best is when they come to you for what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just absorb specifically their script or their film, if you can watch it, if it's been shot, and then you just write a bunch of music in the spirit of, like, if you're just inspired and lit up by what they did and you just write a bunch of music. But I think it's you can get into trouble if you think, like, if you're trying to guess what they want. And it's hard to not do that because and there's an element that's always kind of baked into that. But like you're saying about Miranda's work or Jesse or Isaac's, like they have this specific voice, and you're like, you don't want to um you want your music to work in their world, but you want it to also kind of expand it or heighten it. Like, the job of the composer is to sort of elevate it in a way and usher it along. I mean, it depends on, it's case by case. Some scores are supposed to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the best scores do that. That you don't even hear them, but you feel them. And some scores, like, really announce themselves in like a really bold way, and I love that. Like, I love when a score is unapologetic like that. So I think with Miranda's movie, it was his love story, and I was just writing. I was inspired by it, and I was just writing, like, sort of unapologetically romantic, like not worried about being corny, like
Mm.
like big swing, like love music, but in a way that fit in her world. And we were just kind of living and breathing it, like,
Mm-hmm.
um also because we wrote it, because we were working on it in such a compact time, it has sort of this potency because there was no time to work or think about anything else.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is an interesting thing because it's every job's different, and you try to find a way to do your thing in it. Like, I'm working on something now. I've been working on it for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's been, um, it you can never say, like, when you get a job, like, I think this movie needs this. I'm gonna write this, this, and this, and it's gonna work. Like, the whole gig is like getting lost and fucking around and exploring and finding what
Right.
you know, um,
Yeah,
which is
because
fun.
you don't want your artist's ego to sort of clash with the other artist's ego,
Yeah,
right? But you need to
yeah,
somehow meld the two.
yeah. And then at the end of the day, they're driving it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I send a piece of music that I don't love and they put it and they like it, and I say, I really don't want to put this, if my ego gets involved, I'm like, I really don't want to put this in the movie. It doesn't fucking matter. They're gonna put it. If it
Right.
works for their movie, they're gonna use it. So I try not to, like, push the send button on anything with music on it that I wouldn't be psyched about it living in the film or the show.
So
Uh,
we mentioned Minari, which you were nominated for an Oscar for, which was probably a weird whirlwind of a moment.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Um, that's such a lovely and very just like utterly gentle film, despite the fact that there's literally a fire in it. But it's a very
Okay.
gentle film for most of it. Um, so I guess I'm curious then, sort of like, do you enjoy, or is there a specific challenge to scoring films of that nature that are just sort of like gentle and soft and relatively low key, or is that kind
I
of where you live?
I mean that was kind of like in my mind in a way. Kajillionaire and Minari are like this are like gentle in that in a way, or like the music is like feminine in a way that I love, that like comes naturally to me to write. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's hard to articulate, but
Mm,
it's less grandiose or less regal than like the stuff I would do for Joe or for other projects, like for Last Black Man, or like so that comes more naturally to me, I think, to write music that has this sort of delicate um like dreamy vibe, I guess.
mm,
And it's
mm-hmm.
hard to talk about your own stuff in a way where you don't sound like a goon, But I think um I think for those films, like for Minari, like I met Isaac like at the premiere of Last Black Man in San Francisco. Like he came with Steven and my friend Christina, who starred and produced in the movie. The three of them came, and we had lunch like a couple of days later, and he hadn't shot the movie yet, and he gave me his script, and I wrote just a bunch of music, like not even with scenes in mind, just like in the spirit of his script, because the script, I didn't know where the music was going to go. In a way, it was sort of for self-serving narcissistic reasons, because I was like, I want this movie to have score. And when you read the script, it was really beautiful and moving, but it's five people in a mobile home the whole time, and so it's like you have no idea where the music's going to go. So I thought if I give him a bunch of music before he shoots and before they edit it, I'll like shoehorn my vibe into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote like 80% of the music and the recordings that ended up in the score for that movie were like written before they shot it, and were like recorded the day I wrote it.
Oh
Like I
wow.
just, because I tried to go back and replace things, but it didn't have the spirit or the vibe of like, there's sort of like the day you conceive of a melody or conceive of a piece of music, like, and like if a year goes by between that time and you like professionally quote unquote record it, it's really hard to get back to that feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like the really the most enjoyable process, because it was like they were driving around Tulsa listening to the like scouting locations, listening to the music. My wife and I went to visit them on set, and um like we're watching them kind of make the movie. And by the time they edited it, my friend Harry edited it. He's brilliant, and he used my music in all these places I never would have thought to. Like that's the best friend you can make, is an editor, is they will use your shit in places that they have a deeper understanding than anybody aside from the filmmaker of the film, because they're the architects of it. They're like really
Yeah.
um so you could have something that you think is kind of throwaway, and they can put it in a place that you never would have thought to, that like, and then you kind of get the credit for it.
Right. And it elevates that moment. So
Exactly. And yeah, and the film elevates the music. It goes both ways.
right. No, for sure. Um, and I mean, not to dwell on it or embarrass you at all a little, but like what was that experience like though of going through the sort of awards machine?
Oh
Because like
man.
that's probably something again that we said before, like something you probably never would have seen coming a million miles
No,
away, you know?
no. But if I'm going to talk honestly about it, it was like, it was amazing and it was kind of a nightmare. It was
Hmm.
both like, well, it was also happening at a time where we were in quarantine.
Right,
So,
right.
so like, and I'd been in a band my whole life that never did any interviews, you know? So like, I was like, I had my head really far up my own ass. Like I was like, in a way, it felt really good to talk about myself and my work every day for a few hours a day for like months and months and months leading up to it. But it was all a digital version of it.
Hmm.
So it was what was already surreal to be like plugged into the awards season machine was heightened. It was more surreal because it was digital, and it was like, and it's like you're campaigning. You're like out there like um trying to talk about your work to like, I mean, the best way to look at it, the least cynical way and the best way to look at it is that you're talking about your work and your collaborators' work to sort of elevate and the release of something and connect to as many people as possible. Like there is something beautiful about it. But in a normal awards year, we would have been like at parties and like at screenings and up on stage after like meeting people. Like this was like, I felt like I was in like a Zoom the way we are now, like, but
Hmm.
sometimes with like five other composers, like, like kind of like there was one moment where it kind of occurred to me like we're in these little boxes and it kind of felt like a little bit like, ooh, like give me the prize, like, but and it does something to your brain to like to be, I mean, Hollywood does something to your brain, and that was my first experience with it, like on that level where it's like a fire hose of endorphins on your brain, and then the Oscars come and you go and it's this like surreal experience, and then the next day there's like it just shuts off. There's no,
Right.
you know what I mean? And you have to sort of try not to lose yourself in it. But it was happening at a time for me where I was like right before my wife and I decided to have a kid, and the pandemic was starting to like loosen up, like it was starting, the world was starting to open, and so it was a crazy time for me, in
Yeah.
like emotionally, it was like this wild roller coaster, and I lost myself a little bit in it, and I'm really grateful that that I didn't like lose myself in it, and I like, and I don't know. It's you're negotiating with a really powerful drug. You're
Yeah.
like you're like, and I remember at the time I hired an award season publicist and stopped uh, going to therapy because I couldn't afford. You know what I mean? I couldn't afford
Couldn't afford
both.
both.
So I like put like the money from like my mental health into this very unhealthy machine, but it that also was, yeah, like I don't regret it. I feel whatever, it's complicated, but like it is a machine. It is like, and it's not like I feel really proud of that movie and I'm really proud of that score, but I don't feel I feel proud of all the projects I'm involved with, and certain things get plugged into this machine based on all these other factors, and I think it's important to not like lose sight of that it is like this town is its own animal. You have to, if you're putting some of it in your bloodstream, you have to like respect its power. You have to be
Right.
like, okay, this is gonna. Um, but yeah, no, it was something that I again did never expected would happen, but also like worked really hard to make it happen. Like you. That's why it's always a little silly when people like going through that experience and then seeing people like accept awards and they're like, I can't believe it. It's like, but I know what goes into it. It's like there's
Right.
so much strategy and so much, and I'm not saying it to knock it at all. It's just like it's part of it's part of the industry, and it's part of the, and at its best, it's like you're you're making something with people that you love, and it's connecting with people, and people are reaching out to you and from different times in your life, and it was it was very beautiful in a lot of ways. I'm not I, I'm careful to not be cynical about it, but
Yeah.
it's like anything, it's layered. Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course. And you go from that sort of grand scale thing, um, and now here we are a couple years on, and you're about to release this quite small insular sort of personal solo record,
Yeah.
totally different. Do you see overlap though? Like, do you see overlap between these two worlds for you?
I do. Yeah. I mean, it's something like you have to negotiate. It's like it's you I see overlap in the fact that I'm really proud of both of them, and I feel like um really grateful to be able to do both. And I think at the end of the day, it's helpful for me to think about it as like you're just making things. It's all kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
When there's people that are multi-hyphenates, they're like, if they're like writing and making music and then acting or whatever it is, like you're just creating things. So in that sense, it's nice to just to not like too strictly compartmentalize and be like, this is this part of my creative life and this is this part. I think the part that gets that you have to, if I might speak honestly about it, that's you have to work through is like I have more agency as a composer than I do as a singer
Mm.
this stage of my life. So it's like if you're like things like the Oscars or things like working with your heroes and that side on the film side, you can kind of, especially if like I was sort of traumatized by struggling in the music industry for like 15 years and being on tour and sleeping in the van and not ever getting any press or like or never getting signed. Like there's these sort of uh you have a lifetime of that, and then you're at the Oscars and you have this other experience, and then you're kind of going back to some other version of the music of your place in the music industry. It
Right.
is like it is a complex thing to like not let your sense of self-worth be wrapped up in either thing. Because
Mm.
if you think, oh, like I don't know. I mean, I'm 37 years old, so I have a family, and I'm like I feel really, really like an embarrassment of riches. I feel really lucky.
Mm.
But the sort of the thing that Hollywood can do to your brain, or the thing that the music industry, like success or struggling, both of those things can really fuck you up. Like success can really fuck up your personality, but struggling can also fuck up your personality. And
Yeah.
then if I'm struggling in one area and succeeding in another, so to speak, it's you have to like try to divorce yourself from like your self-worth being wrapped up in it, because I don't have control over any of it. I don't really have control over
Yeah.
awards shows or ticket sales for my shows around my record. Like I don't you have to sort of surrender to it. And
Yeah.
that's, if I'm gonna be honest, is a challenge. Like because you can get wrapped up in it. It's just designed to 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 get you.
Yeah.
And like this town too, like so many people that I see regularly are working in the same industry, and they're all a lot of them are artists and really interesting eclectic people, like, but not only does this whole town, everybody talk about the same thing, but like but the thing that the industry that we're plugged into, the whole world talks about. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like your mom, like if I talk to my mom, she's talking to me about, did you see Succession last night or whatever it is,
Right, right, right.
So it's like there's no escaping it. You know what I mean? It's like living in a, I don't know. It's hard, and you have to sort of be aware of it because then, or like make sure you're not, you, your world doesn't get too too focused or small or in like in film and TV land, because
Yeah.
it's it's all around us, you know.
For
Um,
better or worse.
yeah, I mean, I love it. I love,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I love it, but it's you have to. I feel like you have to respect it. You have to like respect its power and not.
Mm.
I'm talking to myself when I say that. Like, you don't have to do it. You know.
I can log off actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. Well, before we go really quick, I feel like I already know the answer to this, but or some of the answers to this. I was curious if you could do a quick game of three favorite scores of yours.
Oh yeah. Well, there's the two. I mean, I think Fargo
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good one.
probably is definitely in the top three. It's so like it's so like unapologetic and sweeping, and the movies. Like I actually read recently that Carter Burwell, um, who wrote it, he said something like they wanted that, like his idea for that sort of folk melody that like you hear throughout the film is like was to serve the comedy of the film, was to be
Hmm.
absurd. But I think, which was surprising to me, because I think somehow it became profound. Somehow in the, because that movie is deeply funny, but it's also like it's this classic folklore kind of story that like I don't know, like they stumbled into something profound with it. If that was their intention, you know, was to
Yeah.
serve the comedy. And it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's really repetitive. A lot of my favorite scores are really repetitive. Like they're really, the theme just keeps giving, you know.
Hmm.
I think Edward Scissorhands too, just because it's just like the love. It's just so romantic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's haunting, and for a third one, I don't even know.
I mean, I guess The
So,
Godfather.
The Godfather, yeah. I mean, that feels like a corny one to choose just because it's the most popular movie of all time, you know?
True.
But it has like so many heavy hitters on it. It has like eh, so many like melodies that are just like instantaneously, the you hear two notes and the whole feeling of the film comes flooding to you, you know,
That's
all
like
at
me
once.
with
So,
the Spirited Away theme.
oh yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one for you.
the Miyazaki's, yeah, that those piano notes in the beginning,
Oh,
they,
it's so beautiful.
just
Yeah,
transport you. So some films just their scores just do that, and that's
they
kind of
do.
the
Yeah,
magic and the power. So
yeah. It's the power of music, you
yeah,
know, in that context. It's like smell. I think
yeah,
they say
for sure.
smell is the fastest like way like pathway
Yeah,
in your receptors in your brain to like for nostalgia or for to bring you to a feeling. But they say I think music is number two.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only if they could pump smells into the movie theater.
smell-o-vision
Yeah, yeah, that's on the horizon. We'll
on the
see.
way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Emile, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
time.
man.
I
Thanks
had
for
a
having me.
a good time talking to you. Your Emile's new record is out June 9th. It's called Heaven Hunters. Please check it out. And go watch the movies he scored because they're all so lovely and the scores are lovely and everything's lovely. And just, go spend an afternoon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your time. I appreciate it.
Likewise, man. It's great catching up.